So chances are you're watching this on your phone, and if not, you've probably got one in your pocket right now, or maybe next to the screen I'm in. Now, once upon a time, a phone was something used to communicate by voice with someone far away, but they are so much more to us all now. I use mine to chat with my editor, who's living his best life over in Bali, so this video wouldn't have been possible without my phone, to FaceTime Beth while we were living in different countries. That's my 8-year-long relationship, made a whole lot easier by iPhone, to read the news rather than cutting down a whole load of trees, tell me the weather so I'm never caught out, and learn literally anything. Yet the average person in the UK spends 3.5 hours a day on their phone. I probably spend even longer than that, and that adds up to more than 50 days a year. And the fundamental question I have for you is this: we all use a hammer to hit a nail, a bottle opener to open a bottle, a book to learn, a backpack to get stuff from A to B. A phone to do what? Is it still a tool that's useful to you? Or instead, are you the tool, pardon the pun, in Apple, Google, Amazon, and Facebook's cash cow? Is it no longer the case that you use your phone for stuff, but instead it's your phone that's using you, your eyeballs, to, well, make absolutely shed loads of money? There's no doubt, and Siri's stupidity is definitely testament to this.
I don't know who your mother is. In fact,
humans are still cleverer than technology in many regards. But in The Social Dilemma, Tristan Harris puts forward one idea I found really powerful. This notion that technology doesn't have to overpower our strengths to destroy us. It only has to latch onto our weaknesses. It's like the saying, you don't have to outrun the bear, just the other person you're with. Our strengths are outrunning Facebook and Google's bears by absolutely miles. But our desire for dopamine and social validation are being mauled, and we're going down with them. So in this video, I want to share my iPhone 11 setup and how iOS 14 has genuinely been a complete game changer. I have radically altered my phone setup in the last couple of months, and overall I'm definitely on the road, if not already there, to my phone returning to being my tool rather than me being its compliant servant. So let's take a look at my phone, and immediately you can see that iOS 14 has completely changed how this looks. I have this widget in the middle 2 rows giving me a combination of calendar, a couple of Siri suggestions, my music, and my podcasts. But first, let's, I think, talk about the general principle behind how I've organized my phone. And you can see these 2 pages, which have completely changed, and then the other apps throughout the rest of the phone. I've basically made it so that the first 2 pages, these 2, are absolutely not full of the apps that I use most, or at least used to use most. I've worked hard to try and make the apps that suck my attention, we're talking YouTube, we're talking Instagram, we're talking LinkedIn, a little harder to access than they were before, so I don't just get sucked into these apps, these infinity pools, for hours without even realizing it. Instead, the first 2 pages contain the only apps I'm allowed to access before 10 a.m. And I found that building this kind of physical divide, so when I first wake up, I know I can look at this page, and I can look at the BBC News, I can look at done and the habits I want to do, my to-do list, my email, but I cannot access any of my banking, any of my YouTube analytics, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Has made a radical difference to how I use my phone, especially when I first wake up. So the first app on my phone that I really want to talk to you guys about is the music app. It is the very first app. And it also features in the stack on my homepage right here. I have my most recently played playlists. And I've got to say, I really like having this here alongside some of the other native Apple apps like my camera, photos, clock. I'm going to guess that you probably know how those work. So let's just talk music very briefly. So I have Apple Music rather than Spotify, mainly because I get it for free through a family subscription. But I just do quite like the native Apple feel of the Apple Music app. And I do pretty much just listen to playlists. So the new stack functionality where I can see my recently played playlists, and generally I only listen to probably 1 of 5 playlists. So these are pretty much all I listen to. And I found that saves me digging around inside, certainly when I want to get studying. For example, my reading playlist is right there. In terms of playlists, I like All Day Dance Party and House Music 2020 for workouts, the Top 50 and Big Breakfast playlists for Lazy Sundays with Beth. And I then have a few of my own playlists that I've created for jamming in the car. Last but not least is by far my most listened to playlist, my reading playlist, which I put on wherever I'm studying or working and I need to block out background noise, and I will link to that in the description. Okay, so next up we have Google Maps, and other than being the app that I use to find out how on earth I get from A to B, this is also the app that I use to track everywhere I've ever been. It has this really cool feature that was recommended by a friend a few years ago who I met while I was in Madrid. And he suggested that rather like when you put pins in a corkboard, I should love heart every single place that I ever visit. And so now I religiously, whenever I visit a place, put a love heart there, and I get this record of everywhere that I've ever been throughout Europe, over in America. And, you know, it's kind of like it's in the cloud. It's never going anywhere. It stays with me, even if I move house, for example, unlike a corkboard. And yeah, it's just a cool feature, would recommend. Okay, so now let's chat notes. And I want to quickly, take you through the process I use to make notes when I have an idea, and then to go through to actually writing out, for example, a script for a video. The Notes app is kind of like a short-term dumping ground for my ideas. I haven't really bothered to organize it at all. I basically just use it, for example, when I was at uni, if I was walking around a shop and had an idea for my essay, I'd quickly jot it down. Or if I, have been out on a run and I think of an idea for a video, I'll quickly jot it down in the Notes app when I get back. Once I've written it down in the Notes app, I then absolutely love that it syncs straight across to my Mac in the Notes app, and I now use another app called ClickUp, which I do recommend you check out, for expanding on these ideas on my Mac. I only started using ClickUp a couple of months ago, but the web app is pretty great once you get used to how it's structured. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I use it for, its combination of being able to write out, full page documents, but also working in a team. It allows you to build these into kind of Kanban style Trello board structures, kind of like in Notion, but it's a bit more simple, I think. And it also allows you to set due dates for projects, see when a project is scheduled, share ideas with teammates, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, that's more or less my process as far as notes are concerned. That was ClickUp, and that is actually on the third page of my apps because it goes along with all my business stuff. I then also use the native Apple Podcasts app. And again, I have podcasts as one of the kind of items in the stack on my homepage right here. So I can quickly jump straight back into a podcast. When I'm just about to go on a run, I just tap on here and I'm straight back into the podcast I was previously listening to. And I listen to podcasts a lot when I'm out on runs, just walking around. And just in case you're interested, some of my favorite podcasts include the business podcast, How I Built This and Making It Work. And I'm also a big fan of the Tim Ferriss Show. Okay, so next up, how I manage my time and calendar kind of apps. I have just the native Apple Calendar app, which I use for syncing meetings. And generally, I have my family calendars with my families, many families on that. And that then syncs across into another app I use called Time Block. And, when it's the weekend, I don't actually block out my time. I often do, but I didn't this weekend. But if we go into Monday here, you can see, I block out my time hour by hour, and I can put in then events for the rest of the day. It's just a really simple app to use. For those of you who, watch my videos while I was at uni, you'll know that I'm a huge advocate of blocking out time precisely in my calendar. And I do strongly believe that blocking out time in your day to do everything, including the stuff that literally, it feels like you shouldn't be planning, from watching Netflix to spending time with family. I believe that this is just the best way to make sure you're being as productive as possible with your time. So yeah, if you find that you're not great at blocking out time in the Apple Calendar, you might like to give Time Block a go. I do find it much more intuitive and just a much nicer experience to kind of block out time in that rather than the Apple Calendar, and it syncs everything over from your Apple Calendar anyway, like lectures, etc. So yeah, I would recommend giving it a go. You can also create routines so your time will be automatically blocked out with certain activities at certain times during the week, like going to the gym or sleeping in at the weekend. yeah, I would recommend. Okay, so back on the homepage, I have the BBC Weather app, the BBC News app, and Le Monde, and I've really made a conscious effort to use certainly the BBC News app and Le Monde much more regularly on a morning first thing when I wake up to check out what is going on in the world, rather than just hitting up the gram and wasting half an hour of my life. We're nearly at the end of the first page, and this is the page with the coolest stuff on it. I have WhatsApp for messages, 2 email apps, one for business, one for personal. I use Chrome, obviously, because Safari absolutely sucks. That is a lovely picture of a curtain rail. That's what you get when you're moving into a new flat. And last but not least are the Done apps and the Trello app. Now, both of these move us nicely actually into the second page of apps, where you'll see the biggest change on my phone, which is all of these shortcuts, and I'll get onto those very shortly. Trello, you will know if you've watched any of my previous videos, is the app that I use as kind of my to-do list app. So you can see here I have lists for various different things, elements of my life, and the Done app is the app that I use to track my habits that I want to build either daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly into my life. I personally love Trello for its simplicity. You can basically build a to-do list for each of the different elements of your life, and then within those you can have, sub to-do list items, so you can tick off each of the little things that need doing towards that one big thing. And yeah, overall it's just really easy to use. The Done app is also similarly and beautifully simple, and the wonderful people from Done are kindly sponsoring this video. Done is free to start using. You can have up to 3 habits and all of the features on their free plan. And where I use Trello as the place where I store all of the things I need to do, Done is the place I keep all of the things I want to do regularly. Stretching, running, workouts, reading in French or Spanish, going on a date with Beth. You get the idea. With Done, you can set how many times a day, week, month, or year you want to do something, categorize it, set a reminder so you never forget about it, and then keep track of whether you're actually doing it. So yeah, download Done for free through the link in the description, and then get the premium version once you realize just how awesome it is, just like I did. So until iOS 14 came out, I used to have it just the first page of apps that I could access before 10 a.m. But since widgets have come out and I've created all these custom shortcuts, I allow myself the first 2 pages. And I've got to say, these widgets are really, really awesome. They're probably my favorite feature in iOS 14. You can create a combination of custom shortcuts using the Shortcuts app, and then also these kind of widgets that you can add. So I can create custom buttons on my homepage. And this allows me to make my use of the Done app for habits and Trello even easier than it was before. So for example, when I read in French or Spanish, or I go for a run, or I work out, or I stretch, I can simply tap on one of the shortcuts and it will tell the Done app that I've done that habit for the day. Similarly, if I want to add a to-do list to my priority to-do list in Trello, I can simply tap on that button, it'll ask for the title, and when it needs to be done, it'll be added to Trello automatically. I don't have to go into the Trello app at all, and then I'll be reminded at the right time. Amazing. Okay, so I do have to give credit to Thomas Frank because it was his video that made me aware of the fact you could even create these. To create, a kind of widget with these shortcuts on to do pretty much anything you want, you first of all have to go into the Shortcuts app, and I have it right here. Once you've gone into the Shortcuts app, which is on every iPhone, it's owned by Apple now, you first of all have to create a folder. So I'm gonna, for example, create one called Done app because I'm gonna add my Done items in there. I then give it an icon, I go into the folder, and this is where I actually create the shortcuts. It's important that within each folder you create either 1 shortcut, 4 shortcuts, or 8 shortcuts, because that's kind of the numbers that Apple have selected that you have to have in order for the widget to work and make the best of the space. I'm just going to create 1 for now to show you how it works. So I can go down and it'll give suggestions. You can also search for apps. But let's say, for example, I want to add one to stretch. That goes straight in there. I can give it a name, so I can say stretch. I can give it a little icon, I can change that. I think actually it uses the Done app as the icon for these. Yeah, right there. You can change the color, you can change the order. Once you've created your shortcuts within the Shortcuts app, you then simply need to edit the home screen. And this is the final step. You want to add a widget. And if you go right down to the bottom of the widgets, you'll see here that Shortcuts is right at the bottom. Sorry, I missed. Shortcuts is right at the bottom. And you can add either, this is what I said, you have to add 8, 4 or 1. So let's add this, which is what I use. You then tap on it, you select the folder you want. So for example, Done app and Bob's Your Uncle. In it goes. And now when I press on this, it'll add 1 to stretching in the Done app for me. And finally, down at the bottom of this second page, I have all of my learning apps. So language learning with Busuu and Memrise, and also Word Reference for looking at words. I have Audible for audiobooks. I have DataCamp for coding, Skillshare for online courses. And if you watch my morning routine video, you'll know that I try to use one of these for just a little bit, at least a couple of times a week. And when I have enough spare time, an hour or so, I occasionally also work through a Skillshare course to see if there are any productivity tips out there I can try, or, stuff that I can discover to share with you guys. Okay, so let's quickly now speed through the last 3 pages of apps. And on page 3, I have business and finance. So you can see up the top here, I have my online banking apps. I have many bank accounts, none of them with any money in, and an investing app, which I've not yet started using. I have YouTube Studio, which is the app I use to track the performance of my channel, see how my videos are doing, see how you guys are finding my videos, reply to comments occasionally when I get time, and also see how much dollar I'm making. And then I have ClickUp, which I've already mentioned, Slack for talking to team members. Frame.io is a really cool app. This is the app I use to communicate with my video editor, Eric. So once Eric has edited a video, he'll then put it on Frame.io and I can comment at different points in the video, things that need improving. Drive for my files, both backups and sharing files with Eric. Social, LinkedIn, which I now use more than I should because it's kind of replaced Instagram. Now I'm old and boring and a lawyer. YouTube and Instagram, of course, which I do use more than I should still, but I'm trying to cut down on. And finally on this page, I have a load of photo editing apps. So Canva is the app that I use to make my thumbnails. And I've got to say, it's a really great app for making thumbnails. It's completely free. And yeah, it's a really kind of easy way to get into graphic design. There's also WordSwag, which I used in the olden days to make my Instagram quote pictures, and a few different photo editing apps. So I particularly recommend Visco for editing the photos themselves, and also Photo Editor. Huji is pretty cool also. It lets you make kind of photos look like disposable camera photos, but yeah. Okay, moving over onto the 4th page, and this is where apps exclusively are in the colors blue and green. I have no idea why. This is basically just like a random page of apps. They just so happen all to be blue and green until Messenger changed this like pinky thing, which is actually quite annoying. But yeah, this is, particularly of note here, I guess. Hold, which I use all the time for blocking my phone when I'm working and don't want to be distracted. And Runkeeper, which I use every time I go on a run to track how I'm doing. And, I have various different friends on there, Nat's on there, and I like to, see how he's getting on and how much faster than me he's running. And finally, the last page, which really needs no explanation. This is my entertainment page. I have all of this stuff as far away from the first screen as possible, so I don't get tempted. Snapchat, TikTok, generally kind of the biggest, certainly TikTok, the biggest kind of infinity pool in the world ever. And, Netflix for watching Umbrella Academy, which is what I'm watching at the moment, and Sky Go for Millions, an awesome documentary. So, yeah. That is my phone setup, and I've radically changed how it looks, and certainly the first 2 pages of my phone since iOS 14 came out, and I'm really loving it so far. And if you're interested in finding out a bit more about how I've made using my phone that bit more productive first thing on a morning, and if you find you end up spending ages on Instagram first thing on a morning, go watch my productive morning routine video. Thanks a lot, guys.